Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to the October 2nd, 2024 Cosmic Tower Q&A call. Thank you for being here. We're trying a new date and time this time, so be interesting to see how that's different for us. And regardless, we're thankful for all of you being here and the opportunity to come together and talk about things all Cosmic Tower related, which seems to spill over to just about any topic. So I think it's important to start with one in particular this week because the hurricane that came up through the East Coast left a pretty strong mark, particularly in the Asheville area, which is where Nico and I met in person. And we lived there together for a little while and had friends and acquaintances in the area. And there's been a lot of devastation in the area. And um, on top of that, this is just a crazy world we're living in these days, and um, it is very natural to feel tossed around in it, and so I just want to acknowledge that and make room for us to come together in the beginning and just acknowledge, what it's like living in this world right now, and yeah. So Nico, why don't we talk a little bit about talk about Asheville, and I know it touches you. I know you're so sensitive, and people in the area, and
Mm.
yeah, how are you feeling about what happened there?
Yeah, it's really sad, and seeing the pictures, and I recognize a lot of places. It's still at things in storage there that got all wiped out. Not that that's a big deal, right? I mean, with so much loss of life, and yeah, such crazy circumstances, right? And I can say I really feel it, and it's been like affecting me, and also from the people that we know in the area. And yeah, it's a crazy world, and it's all the more reason that we need more harmonization, right? Because you can leave in the middle whether this is natural or whether there are other causes behind these crazy weather patterns and crazy things that happen. But I think ultimately, the solution is always the same, which is that we just have to all do our part, right, to bring more harmony into the world, and to
Yeah. How do I get him back?
oh, sorry, can you maybe mute everybody, Patter, and then I can unmute?
I think so. Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. So yeah, so I was saying, like, we just have to do what we can to bring more harmony into the world, on all levels, right? I've talked in the science series also about the importance of harmonization. And so just so you know, we talk about electrosmog and how that's a phenomenon that's not electromagnetic, right? Because you have what we call longitudinal compression waves that are being formed from all the electromagnetic radiation, which affect us on an emotional and on a mental level. Now, that's just one form of smog. Every thought we put into the world, right? All our emotions that are pushed away, that we are not releasing or bringing into balance, they form their own smog, right? I don't know about some of you, but if I go to in a very urban area, I sometimes feel like, the heaviness of the mind in a particular area. And I can, or you go in a hotel room and you can feel like, who's been there before. I mean, not like, oh, it's that person or whatever, but you can feel these energies that they linger in the space, and that they have far-reaching effects. And it's, I mean, so many of us are focused on electromagnetic distortions because that's really affecting people right now, but it really, it goes for all energies. And so we have to make a choice whether we either want to contribute to that, right? Or like, do not, like, I talk about this in the Lavanya, the emotional calls all the time. Do not underestimate the impact when you clear all that. And when you clear, your mental patterns, and when you come in the heart, you have that harmonizing effect on the people around you, and this ripples far and wide into the world, right? So it's important to bring more harmony, and then of course we've gotten questions like, hey, there are big towers in the area, how could something like this still happen, right? And I have to remind people that, we will show the map as far as like how much coverage we have, mainly for people that have a smaller tower and want to know if they're supported in the area. But just know, if we put one big tower in a particular area, that doesn't mean it's done, right? You always have to look at it from an energetic point of view, like how much distortion is present in an area. That's a certain amount of energy, and then each big tower brings in energy to harmonize that. But it's not like one tower and it's done. Like, for example, Harold was asked this question for Holland, like, hey, if we just put one tower there, while Holland's a really small country, one tower technically has enough range to cover the whole country. But Harold still said, with all the distortion that is present here, 5G electromagnetic and also emotionally, mentally, we will need about 40 towers to really balance and neutralize everything that is present there, right? So every big tower helps towards creating more harmony, but it's not a one and done. We have to look at the total energy of distortion and the total harmonization. So it's a very dynamic thing, right? Because when more people have a harmonizing effect on the environment versus a detrimental effect in their minds, in their emotions, in their actions, right, then everything shifts, and it's a constant balance. It's like with the human body, right? You might go for a session or an acupuncture session. Is it one and done? No, right? It's a continuous process, because when certain layers are harmonized, other layers come up for harmonization. So it really, with these types of events, it really matters. Like, if you, let's just leave aside what caused this, whether it's man-made or whether it's natural, you'll have to look at the total amount of disharmonious energy that is present in that particular system, and then how many towers it really would take to bring harmony to that. So that's why it's important that we continue to build the network out and continue to bring more harmonizing factors into our environment, including yourself. Right? It makes a big difference, and the tower helps there too. Right? It's not just all like, oh, you get a tower and now all your work is done. It doesn't work that way, right? Other things will come to the surface for you to address on a personal level, and that's a continuous journey, because else we'd be done. We'd get a tower and now we're done. No, no, no. It just helps guide us to become more harmonious ourselves. So we're on a journey here altogether. So I would just want to encourage people, be that harmonizing factor, and know that you're not like powerless. What you do and everything you clear, sometimes I feel like I'm clearing things and I'm like, are they even mine? Or is it something in the collective or in the environment? But then I'm like, well, who cares? Right? I'm feeling it right now. And whatever I can do to clear that, I don't ask that question anymore. Is this mine or somebody else's? Right? It's important that we clear that. So yeah, it's an ongoing process. And if you look at the map, uh, and we have about more than 30 large towers deployed, it's going to take a lot more, right, to really to get everything neutralized, because things also happen on the other side. More 5G towers are being put up, and more other technologies that cause disharmony are being brought into the energy system. So The important thing is just, set that intention that you're going to be a harmonizing factor for this world, and yeah, keep going and stay on that journey.
I've been attending quite a few events on Maui, and there tend to be a lot of people here who are really interested in consciousness. And at an event I was at on Sunday, there seemed to be a theme in the room, which was whatever tumultuous stuff was going on in that individual's life that they shared into the discussion. The answer revolved around truth and authenticity and standing up to be who they are here to be. And so I keep hearing more people from diverse stories and backgrounds being called to self-actualize in an alignment that's greater than what we've known before.
Mhm.
And um, and so, it gives me hope. Um, and there are a lot of diverse energies out there. I have a hurricane story that comes to mind. Nico, you probably remember this, and maybe somebody who's here remembers it, but I'll tell it again just for fun. I think it was around 2014 or 15. And I have a lifelong friend who lives in Miami, and he, having grown up in Miami, is really good at watching the storms come in. And he measures them, and he decides exactly how much preparation to do based on his analysis. And until this one time, which was in our 40s, I'd never seen him scared. And this storm was coming into Miami, and he was scared. And he was in the bullseye, and it was powerful. And so we talked about that. And after we got off the phone, I was communing with creator or nature, and I was like, I want this storm to go out to sea. Like, I want to change the direction of the storm. I put my full prayerful intent into deflecting this storm away from the path that it was on. The next day when I went to work, um, I was full of energy, and frankly, I was being an asshole. And Jen was like, "Hey, Patty, you're being an asshole," and I was like, "You're right." And we have a rule, which is if you're being an asshole and you're at work, you get sent home. Doesn't matter who you are. So I had to leave work, and I went outside, and I had a yard full of cut wood. And I usually, when I split wood, I have kind of a method to it. There's like a pace, and it's pretty even. And I went out there like the whirling dervish and was just pounding like as hard as I could on this wood, and for a really long time, like so long that it surprised me. And then finally, like 30 minutes in, I just let one swing go, and I just burst out laughing. And what I realized was that my prayer to influence that storm had been answered, and that some of the energy of the storm was flowing through me, and I was driving it into the earth through my wood splitting. And I just started laughing and like breathing hard, and just like fell to the ground. Like, it was hilarious. And I went back inside, and I re-engaged Jen and Zoom. I'm like, sorry about before, like I figured out what happened. And we laughed about it and agreed that I was able to come back to work for the day. And so, you know, one person putting their intent on that has an impact. That,
Mhm.
that's that's the experience that I had. I had an impact. What degree of impact? I don't know, but probably fair to say as much as I could possibly handle. And that didn't mean that the storm didn't continue and be a storm, but my friend was okay. Like, that is the way it went. I'm not making any correlation between that. Simply saying that when we put a tower somewhere, or we put a person somewhere, or we step into our truth and our authenticity, we matter. We matter for the collective. Each drop matters. And we need a lot of us to matter together.
Mhm. Yeah, one of my teachers always said that the weather is like a manifestation of the collective unconscious. And that sounds maybe crazy from people that come from a more mainstream background. But if you look that really like the earth, we're all a part of it, and we're a part of the atmosphere. Right? It does make a sense, and I wholeheartedly uh, believe that. And I know for me personally, it always comes down to if you can be in your heart and let your mind go, and have that source energy radiate out, you're always gonna have the strongest harmonizing effect you can possibly have, whatever happens. And we're talking about storms and weather, but this also goes for the storms in our lives, and both the individual storms that we're faced with, and those on a collective level, right? So it just comes, yeah, it's a choice to be that harmonizing factor. And I mean, obviously, I wholeheartedly believe that, it's natural that we go into fear. But you could say, in a way, if you go into fear and we're not in our hearts, that adds more energy um, to a system. So I think, in a way, uh, yeah, we're growing up as a species there, to where we're not seeing ourselves as this, like, being dropped in this environment that we're completely separate from, and that whatever we think, whatever we say or do doesn't have an effect. Yeah, everything does, right? So I think to individually all strive to be the most harmonious that we can, and on a collective level, that's the way we're gonna navigate the current storms and those that still might be coming.
Yeah, we're definitely connected. I got back from Dallas about a dozen days ago, and frankly, it's been joyous. Like, it's just me and my dog in my house. It's so quiet and easy and fun. And I've been doing a lot of things that I really enjoy. And the last 24 hours or so, um, I experienced some discord. And I was like, gosh, what's going on? And this morning I just kind of needed to curl up in bed and get my Domino's app on my phone and just play dominoes and just give a little space for things to unwind. And I was like, what's going on? Like, Patter, what's the matter? And that's when I realized that Susie says eclipse energy, right on. And somebody in our community got really depressed yesterday, and I didn't have time to get to her with a phone call, and she's on my heart, and um, it struck a resonant tone for me when I considered that what I was feeling as I curled up was what she's feeling, and I was like, oh, okay, it's time to, like, get past myself and make that phone call, and get out there and reach out to her. So we are so intimately connected, both to the eclipse and that type of natural phenomena, and to what we're going through individually and emotionally. All right, let me transition us with some just a little bit of lighter details for a minute. Well, let me make space. Does anybody want to jump into the conversation? Because you're always welcome to raise your hand or unmute yourself and jump in. And if this is touching you and you have something to say, I just want to make room for you. Well, you can percolate on it for a second, and if there is something, yeah, Dr. Yang, you jumping in here?
Mhm.
It looks like you are.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
So yeah, talking about using our towers and playing with the craziness of what's going on. The hurricane was heading right toward us. And I had been talking to my 220 and my 75 for several weeks and bringing in the elementals and just saying, hey guys, we need rain. We haven't had rain in months. It's getting real dry up here. But I choose to have transmuted energy. I choose to have gentle, soothing, nurturing rain without wind and storms. And so as it was heading straight up to where North Carolina and Georgia and Tennessee come together, which is where I am, it veered over. And we had 12 inches of rain, but we didn't have the, the problems that we could have had. But in the meantime, I was supposed to be over there, right in the epicenter of where it was, to go to a family wedding. And that didn't happen. But I saw my family members that did get there really go through some horrible, horrible stuff. And it brought up some of the worst emotions in the nephew that got married. And I was almost saying that it was opening up the veil and looking beyond the veil to bringing up emotions, because they were so terrified and they kept getting stuck, and then the flooding and all that kind of stuff. So they didn't have towers, they didn't know how to deal with it, they were just living in the stuff. And so, like you, Patter, you said you were feeling some stuff today. Well, I realized I was over in Asheville, where we have hundreds of friends, and I'm standing in Georgia, but I was over there. I went from massage and energy work today to just let go of the stuff I was kind of holding the form for over there. But, working with my towers has been really good. And I really believe that there are a lot of things happening with this crazy storm. And the same trajectory was used in 1916 to take a huge hurricane up to the very same area where it hit. But they didn't have towers, but they also didn't have the population, and they also didn't have, some of the other forces that can play with things. So, but it's not, quote, global warming. That can't be blamed. It's happened 100 years ago, and it happened 55 years ago in the same area. So, please send good vibes through your towers and your divas and angels to those poor people, because they're still over there dying and they don't have water and that sort of thing. But yeah, we can use these devices we have, and they really can help to transmute our energy as well as other energies. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thanks for jumping in. I have been in touch with 3 out of the 4 large tower owners in the area, and they're all fine, including you, Anne, as one of those 4.
Mhm.
So, okay, anybody else want to jump in? Okay, well, just let me update you on a little bit of logistics for a second, and just tell you a couple things as a transition into the rest of the Q&A. So the 40-foot container arrived safely about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and it was moved to our new warehouse location. And this one has been a home run from the start. We've gotten the backlog of orders fulfilled, with the exception of some of the bundles took a little longer to work through, and I think those have just gone out today or yesterday. We're right there, but we've revamped the shipping system, and the comments that are coming in now are looks like it's packed a whole lot better than it needs to be, and that's a real relief to us, because it just breaks our heart to have something get damaged in shipping. So we are fully stocked. We have 250s, 220s, 75s, 35s, and minis, all in the warehouse, all ready to roll. And that feels really good. We want to put a little flag out there for people that live in climates that get cold in the winter. If you're thinking about purchasing a tower and you're in Canada, probably time to get on it today. If you're in the northern part of the United States, depending on where you are, it's getting close. And in the past, we've felt the need to shut down shipments to certain states during the cold temperatures. We monitor the temperatures And when we feel we can get a tower delivered, then we do go ahead and send it. But just something to think about. And now that we're, really well stocked and, in a good position that way and have a secure line of supply going forward, we want to encourage you to broaden the conversation by telling people about it. In particular, the video series that Nico's working on right now, that he's about halfway through, the Cosmic Tower Science series, is kind of an upgrade of all the language of the Cosmic Tower project and our most current thinking combined with Nico's really in-depth scientific research and discoveries. So we feel like where some of the old conversations had Harold's somewhat thick accent and maybe more of a meandering style, this series is kind of clear and, really much easier to follow. So it's a great thing to share. And if you have favorite podcasts or telesummits or anybody who interviews people and you have just their email address that you can contact them and say, hey, the Cosmic Tower project is happening, you might want to take a look. Or if you know them personally, the host, the interviewer, and you can give a call, we're ready. This is the time for more shows. And now that Nico's done all this work to really streamline the dialogue, let's make sure a lot of people hear it, and we're all in that together. So to the extent that you can expose your tower and your thinking to more people, if you don't have a tower, just teaching them about what we're up to, it's a real gift to be part of the community together, and it makes a difference if you do that. Also, tiny other thing in the logistics. There were a couple of towers that either we placed in Lubbock, Texas, because we were seeing about building the network there, or there was a couple of towers that were unfortunately subject to a little bit of moisture from a leaking roof in Lubbock. It's all water under the bridge. It's not a current issue, but there were two towers that were actually slightly damaged by that. And so we have a few towers that have come back and are inventory as used devices. So they're 10% off. It's a CT35 when it's used is 1480 instead of 1680. And a 75 is 3590 instead of 3990. So if you're interested in one of those, we've never really had enough of them to merit talking about it, but just email support at the Wellness Enterprise and say, I want one of the used towers. And they're all reset to the specifications they had when they were created. So that they've been used for a little bit really doesn't have any impact. And we just put a little discount on them to make it easier for some people who need to save some money when they're buying. So I hope that helps just the right people. Okay, so moving into the questions, and feel free to ask live always, use the chat and or just raise your hand and talk. Nico, regarding the case for the Mini, one of our people likes taking the Mini to the store because it helps her keep her head clear, and she was wondering, keeping it in her purse inside of the case, like, does that diminish the impact or the power of it?
No, it does not. I mean, that's what it is designed for. The only thing I would say is just make sure that it's standing upright if you can, right? Because if it's laying horizontal, it's not nearly as powerful as if it's standing upright. So if you have a, if you have a purse and you can put it in there so where it's standing up, or you have a backpack or whatever it may be, just do your best to have it upright when it's on you. But it's not like the case or whatever you're going to put it in is gonna diminish it.
Okay, and I guess the next one's on the Mini too. I'm going on a trip for 9 days, and I'm wondering if the Cosmic Tower Mini will be okay to be away from a large tower for so long. I'm thinking I was told they need to be by a mother tower, a larger one, as they don't work on their own, but I think maybe I misunderstood. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, I think that's a misunderstanding. So that's what the tower works on its own. That's what it's designed for. right, to protect you when you're outside of the range of your bigger tower, and it doesn't need to be close to a bigger tower to work. It was exactly designed for you to have when you are traveling, or like when you're in an airplane crossing the Atlantic like myself. I just like to have the Mini there with me to just at least have that basic protection until I'm, by my bigger tower or by a bigger tower again.
Sounds good. And the next question is about traveling with the tower, and so let's talk about the various sizes and how they are handled, right? So the
Mhm.
Mini is considered less than the required amount of ounces to be a threat to the security people, so they don't do anything about it. You just carry your Mini with you like you do your cell phone or anything else. Just protect it, have it standing up as much as possible. It needs to be in a bag, it's in a bag. If you want it to be out, it's out. Mini can go on the plane, and it could go in a checked bag, or it can go in the cabin with you, right? So that's the starting point.
Yeah, correct. And I'll just add to that because I get these questions a lot. And yeah, it's not damaged by the X-rays, right? If you put it through the machine, so that's not an issue. And yeah, with the Mini, honestly, I've brought it a bunch of times through TSA, no problem. They didn't even pull it out. So I've never had an issue taking it on carry-on. And I like to have it with me because, you want it close to you when you're flying. If you're really uncertain or it gives you a lot of stress, then, yeah, go ahead and put it in your checked bag. So you're more comfortable with that. And then of course, anything that's bigger than the Mini, you would want it that has to go, as a check bag. So like your 35, uh, yeah, anything but the Mini you have to check.
Yeah, and so we have experience with checking 35s and 75s, and as long as you have a big enough suitcase, just wrap it up with as much soft stuff as you have and put it in the center of the bag. Hard edge suitcase is better than soft, as greater protection. If you're buying one to travel with the 75, definitely buy a hard edge.
Mhm,
You have to look around a little bit to get one that's big enough to take a 75, but they're definitely out there.
mhm.
So I think that covers the travel. From the chat, I'm wondering if my cell phone is close to the Mini in my bag. Does the cell phone impact the function of the Mini?
Um, I mean, try to keep your cell phone, away from it, right? And don't put like your Mini right on top of the cell phone if you can help it, right? But I mean, the Mini is just it's gonna function, right? But like, don't just put them like right on top of each other. So maybe put the cell phone here and put the Mini in your bag and create some space.
Sounds good. This person wants to know if the towers have an on-off switch.
Yeah, no, they don't. Like, so they come activated and they're active, right? It's just when the tower it's meant to stand upright, so perpendicular to the earth plane. So that's when the tower is most powerful. If you lay it down horizontally, it's still active. It doesn't turn it off, but it's only maybe at 20-30% of its strength versus when it's standing up. But it doesn't turn it off. They're active, when we get them, and they stay active. So
Great. I missed there was actually that was connected to more here. My goal is to have people be focused on changes possible for themselves with or without a tower. Is it good to have a tower covering many houses around my place, but better if people become aware of the source of their better being? What do you think?
yeah, so I think the person's referring to when they have it in their house, it's also gonna affect their neighbors, and that's up to you whether you talk about the tower, um or not, right? You can introduce people to it, but you know, a lot of people just aren't ready to go there yet, right? And I think after a while, you get a sense for who's ready for something like the tower, which probably still blows a lot of people's mind that come from more Western and scientific point of view. But from my own experience, like when I like early on when I awakened or where I started to come into, you know, become aware of spiritual and other energies, I had like a lot of us, I gotta tell the whole world, and you have to know about this, and wake up, why is it taking you so long? You gotta, you know, you have to look at this. And now my style has changed a lot over the years, because I realized that you can only really plant the seed, and then you can create, like you would plant a seed in your garden, then you can create an environment that's beneficial for it, as in watering it, making sure it's in the right place, but you don't get to decide whether that seed sprouts or when it will sprout, right? And I like to use the same analogy with people. So where before I might have been more direct and say, you gotta learn about this. Let's face it, I mean, for myself, you know, I was told about a lot of these things years before I woke up myself, and I didn't want to hear about it. I just wasn't ready for it. But then when the right circumstances came, right, I had my like own awakening and learned about all these things, and then I wanted to convince other people that they really have to look at it. Doesn't work that way, right? So the best thing you can do is just, you know, let that radiate out and share with those that are ready, and you can kind of test the waters like that, and then you feel whether people are open to it or not. Like when we have the tower, like for example at our place in Egypt, like I don't tell people that come into the house, oh, this is a cosmic tower and you have to see this, yada yada. Well, it's there, and then people will walk up to it. It's like, oh, I can feel this. Like, what is this? Can you tell me like more about it? And now I'm invited to share about it. I'm not stepping on another's journey by trying to force it, right? So that's really my approach in the world now. And most of the time I don't tell people what the tower is, but I have realized that those that are ready, they notice, and those that might not be ready, they just don't seem to notice it. But those that are ready and notice it and ask about it, it's always a beautiful conversation, and they're open to it. So that would be my advice. Like if you have neighbors, etc., or friends, if you feel that they're open to it, test the water, right? Plant the seed, and then if they ask you more and you have permission, you know, go ahead and talk to them about it, right? But respect everybody's journey and where they're at.
Yeah, I think receptivity is so important there, and also distinguishing that we don't convince anybody. This project has nothing to do with that. And so one of the differences between the seat I sit in and the one all of you sit in is that I'm a focal point for this conversation globally. And so I have the opportunity to interact with a lot of people. And in interacting with a lot of people, it's really easy to discern. Some people come in awe and acceptance and curiosity, and they just want to know more. And some people come in skeptical and grinding and want to disprove. And if you were me, who would you hang out with? Right? Like, I just take the people who are all excited about the tower and I love on them, and they end up becoming friends and acquaintances. And, we have things in common in life and we interact, and it's just amazing. And so some people have purchased more than one tower or loaned a tower out in a situation like that. And then if the person hasn't gone ahead and purchased it from them or done what they wanted them to do, they get frustrated. Like, this person doesn't understand, and why aren't they taking action? because it's not their time.
Mhm.
And so if you loaned a tower to somebody and they had an experience and they gave it back, then they gave it back. That's the experience. And there's nothing wrong. You did your part spreading the cosmic tower energy. That's enough, you know? And if they're ever supposed to own a cosmic tower, they will. And if they're not, they benefit from the big ones. Or they can just put their focus on whatever it is most important to them in life and focus on that. And that's just perfect. There's nothing wrong in any of that.
Yeah.
So just be at ease with letting people be where they are. And for the ones that love it, which many of you have probably never had that conversation before, like you don't even know what it looks or feels like, but people just get completely warm and excited, and they just can't wait to know more. And those are the ones. That's who you talk to. And if you don't have those people in your life, then just stay open or intend that more come in. And yeah. Yeah, I see a hand going up. Hi, Sue.
Hey.
Hey.
So I have no idea what the tower did, but I sure feel damn lucky coming through this hurricane. So none of my trees came down. I have a lot of cleanup, but nothing else. But I wanted to say, and I'm sure this will embarrass Nico, but I love that science series. I sit there and I look at the Telegram feed to see if there's a new one up, and I'm not a science person, and I've heard some of Harold's stuff, but it's still, I mean, I can't believe you can talk about these things like as naturally as you do, and it's just lovely to hear. And I bought the tower. I got a big yes. A friend had one, and I bought mine. Feeling kind of strange about it. Like it was, even though I do energy work and distance healing, and I talk to animals and things like that, it still felt kind of out there for me. And I still don't feel like I have the total picture of why this works and why this is, but I feel like I'm putting the pieces together with this science series. So it's really wonderful. And I have several friends who want one, and it's like you said, it's just not quite their time yet. They don't have the money quite together. They don't have the situation. And but boy, they come to my house and they immediately just go walk over to it. So that's very cool. But thank you, Nico. I really love the series.
It's my pleasure. And so ultimately, if people feel it and they're called to it, that's perfect, right? The only reason I'm doing this series is for people that are very mental and really want to figure everything out, and right, to just like show them that there's a different aspect, like that there's all this science that we don't know about, and it's a challenge, right, to do it in a way that makes sense to people. And I have to tell you, I've been studying this for decades, right, and it has taken me forever. And after going on my spiritual path, it's not like I'm going in all these signs because I need an answer. No, I've had my own felt experiences. I had my own spiritual experiences. It's not for that. It's just because I'm curious, right? And I like to figure out how things work. But I'm no longer coming from that science background because, the ultimate questions, or I can't find my path or all that. I'm just doing now because it's fun. And that I like to figure out how things work. But I also, like, at least I believe that ultimately there's always going to be a mystery. Right? And I don't think that you can figure everything out, and neither am I like claiming to, or neither do I want to, because people run through like the left brain and try to rationalize everything. I truly believe that you're never going to be able to figure out the totality of creation with your left brain. The left brain is just a part within that creation, a tiny perspective on that. I do think that it can help, right? And with your experiences, but ultimately, I'm still in awe of the great mystery of creation, which I think will probably remain a mystery forever, and that's okay. I'm just happy with what I've been able to glance and what I've been shown. That's like opening the door to understand more of it. But it's not like, ooh, I'm gonna figure everything out, because in my heart I can feel, I think the great mystery, I don't think you can rationalize it and ever understand it, but it's just a matter of experiencing it. So if you're having the experience, that's great, and you can get there, straight away. That's ultimately what I think it's about. So thank you, Sue.
So, Sue, I think part of the reason the Cosmic Tower Science Series is so good is because we're lucky that Nico's curious and it's fun for him. So that's the little secret behind why that's all happening. And so it's our gain is his fun. So it's a perfect match. We appreciate that you put so much time and energy into it, Nico. Really
It's
makes
my pleasure. I love doing it.
Okay, guys, I got one more pre-prepared question. I'm going to read it now, and then after that, either raise your hands, have something to say, or we'll end up wrapping up. So, could you tell me if they, meaning a CT35 and 75, would offer strong protection in a small house from the following: changes in our planet's electromagnetic field strength and very strong pulse-modulated 5G radiation. I'm not sure if the pulsing RF radiation could be caused by some kind of directed energy weapon or satellite geoengineering operations.
Mhm. So when we talk about the tower, and not just the tower, also things like biogeometry and other solutions, it's all about harmonization, right? I think the person mentioned the electromagnetic field of the Earth, and that's still from a quantitative point of view, like how strong is the field, and then the field is getting weaker, and that could very well be a natural cycle. But don't forget that it's really about the quality of the information. If you look at nature, it communicates within the body and outside of us. One of the ways it's communicated is through these small electromagnetic radiation or scalar waves, and to transfer the information. So let's look more at things from a qualitative point of view, and harmonize the quality versus focusing on how strong is the field now. Then I think they brought up the 5G and the pulsing. Well, that's an interesting one. Same applies there, whether it's a pulse or not, right? This happens in the faster than light realms, in the subtle realms. We're harmonizing the information, but it does bring up a good point, because you see people that have these analog, like the trimeters, right? And then they're going to measure how much electromagnetic frequency is in their home. Now, there's a few things about that. Like, even if you have biogeometry or like the cosmic tower, when it's harmonized, you're still going to be able to detect electromagnetic frequencies, but it's all about quality, right? The information has changed. The information has changed that is carried on, that, which is really important to understand. And I know we keep coming back to this, like you can't block, you can't deflect, you can't absorb all the harmful radiation. There's just too much of it. So what we're focusing on is harmonizing it, right? So even like with the trimeter, you're still going to be able to detect electromagnetic energies, but a trimeter is like, I'm just using an example, it's a very crude instrument. It tells you nothing about the quality, right? You could have a scalar wave device for healing, and you could measure it from purely a quantitative point of view and says, ooh, high electromagnetic radiation, so it's bad. It's not like that. It's like, what is the quality? What's the information that's carried on there? The other thing with those, with like a trimeter, you can never even measure the full effect of electromagnetic frequencies, like a smart meter, for example. They send these bursts, right? And that's not picked up on like an analog meter like that. So they're really not that good, you know, to begin with, because they cannot detect like those bursts. You would need something electronic that measures over a certain amount of time and then figure out all these pulses, right? But let's take it a step further. The electromagnetic meters, they're just way too crude, because as we talked about, they don't give you any information on the quality and whether it's in harmony with us or not. So yeah, the cosmic tower can harmonize that, right? Because we work on all these subtle layers. So we're not looking at blocking things out. We're just saying, like, here are all these carrier waves that are in our environment, and they carry detrimental information for life. Let's change the quality of it to where that's no longer detrimental. That's why, like, I keep bringing this up. People are like, here you are again, probably the miracle of Hamburg with Ibrahim Karim. I think that's amazing, because people were getting sick. The Swiss government, Swiss Telecom, they had to admit they got a problem. Dr. Karim comes in there and he uses, you know, ways to address that mainstream science would say, like, oh, that's completely impossible. But yet he did it, and it's proven, right? But he did it through harmonization. And it's the same for the cosmic tower. And that is the only way we really, in my opinion, are going to get out the situation that we're in, because they're going to keep deploying, you know, 5G and other solutions that are detrimental. So really, for me, the only way out of it is like, hey, we can't fight you on that. Obviously, you're going to keep doing that. So let us just focus on harmonizing all those signals and harmonizing the information.
Beautiful. Thanks, Nico. All right, guys, that's the end of the prepared questions that we had coming in. Does anybody have a question they want to ask live? One more thing that came up when Sue was talking is she mentioned that some of the people that that are in her life maybe don't have the finances together and whatnot. I just want everybody to know the way we do payment plans over here is, if you need a payment plan, we ask you what you need. And if it's within the context of what we can afford to support, then we grant it. And we don't charge people interest, and we don't have finance fees or any of that. We just recognize that some people need time to pay for a tower, and we ship it after the first payment. So if you're on the fence and you can afford something, just tell us what you can afford, and we'll work with you. You know, it's best for us if you can put down a good amount up front and then pay off over time. But you tell us what you can do, and we'll work with you. Yeah, Dr. Ann, go ahead.
Patter, months ago, you had a special meeting with a man, and I can't remember where he was, but he was using some sort of technology in conjunction with the cosmic towers to neutralize cell towers. Are you still working with him at all? And what was was that biogeometry that he was using?
I'll speak to the whole of the project, and then Nico, I don't know if you'll have anything to add about the technology itself, but the intention was to get involved with a project to wrap cell phone towers. And it's not simple, and it's not just you know, an energetic thing where you just wave a magic wand and the tower's wrapped. And so inside of that dialogue, there was a moment where we felt like it was imminent. So we started talking about it, and it's now on the back burner, and it's not extinguished, and it's not imminent. So in order for us to stand for something, sometimes it takes a long time. And it was probably an error to start speaking about that publicly until we were really sure. But we thought we were going forth with it. So it's a back burner thing, and I'm sure if we felt like we were in a beta testing stage, one of the people that would come to mind first is you.
Yeah.
Because you
Okay.
you have the sensitivity to be aware of a difference something can make. And so if we get the opportunity to move that forward, we would be delighted to be talking to you about it.
Great. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, anybody else? Questions? Anything you want to share? If anybody's got something that they've experienced with their cosmic tower that they want to share with the community, this is a lovely time for that. Yeah, and it's been about an hour, so if we wrap up, that's okay too. Yeah, Barbara. Oh, there. I didn't have your name in front of your face, Sarah. I knew there was a reason I kept looking at you. Hey, welcome to the call, and yeah, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unmute yourself.
I need
Yeah.
to unmute.
There you are.
Here I am. I love the CT35. I call it the guest, just like in some Sufi poetry, when God is known, the source is known as the guest. And so this truly, to me, is a heartfelt experience. And I realized each and every human being, and probably other beings as well, have a toroidal field in their heart. So each and every one of us is a cosmic tower, probably in different ways. And it was like, wow. I mean, that just came in. So standing in front of it or feeling it, there is definitely a resonance there that I have felt when I visited some sacred spaces. And so it's just truly a gift and an honor to have one in my house. And hopefully there will be a time, well, maybe I'd still carry the many in my purse. But I guess a question too is, and I know you can't just you just can't build your own power. Well, I'm going to build this or build that. I mean, it comes, your intention can be that, and then you just let go. But I'm wondering, with all of the EMFs and everything else, I mean, the cosmic towers, they harmonize. So if we get to a point where our toroidal field in our heart is strong enough, then those waves, the EMFs and other things, should not bother us as much. Is that good thinking or not? Or good feeling?
Yeah. Yeah, Barbara, and thank you for bringing that up. And I wholeheartedly believe that really the cosmic towers are here to help us make this transition. But as you say, yeah, we are also the toroidal field, and we're powerful harmonizers. That's why, I think ultimately, right now, people are really focused on the 5G and all the EMFs, but it's really about our own spiritual development, right? And we become more powerful, so we can actually be these harmonizing factors, like to say, be a tower, right? And harmonize your environment. And yes, that's ultimately where I see humanity going to, where they're in a way almost like training wheels for us to get there. But remember, everything is interconnected. So when we get to that level of consciousness, we're also going to be like, okay, this was a really bad choice, this technology that we chose to use to basically communicate with each other all over the world, which has great benefits, but it's very detrimental, right? So I mean, if you go way back to fossil fuels, it's a great idea. We can drive everywhere, and it's brought great mobility into our world. And now we're so many decades or whatever later, we're maybe that's not the best. And then unfortunately, the decision is made, oh, we're going to go all electric. So, now we're going to put even more of these man-made electromagnetic frequencies, which I think it actually aggravated. So yes, as more of us become more harmonized, not only are we like gonna harmonize more of that just naturally everywhere we go, but there's also going to be a shift in consciousness. I mean, I didn't talk about this, but there is actually ways that they could engineer these signals and make them to where they're not detrimental for life, right? That can absolutely be done, right? And these technologies can be created that way. And I'm like an engineer, I'm like, hey, why don't we do that? Right? But right now there's other interests in the world that don't care about that. But again, like we talked at the beginning of the call, it's up to all of us. And as your individual conscious changes, the collective, and vice versa. So yes, I do hopefully see a future where the towers will not have that much work on that front, because all of us, are much more harmonious, and we're at a different level of consciousness to where we don't make all these things that are so detrimental to our environment. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right that we're on a journey here, right? And hopefully the towers are going to be, might be a few decades away. Who knows, right? You can't tell to where they're like, hey, in a way, our work's done. You guys, like, you're there now, right? And then we're on a very different trajectory for humanity. But I know for right now, as you say, they're very helpful. Because the other thing is like, I get that comment sometimes, like, well, we can do all this ourselves, and you don't uh, need a tower for that. That is true. But if you're bombarded all day long with all these things that bring you out of balance, it's sure nice that you have all that taken care of, so it's easier for you to focus on your own development, just so you can learn how to ride a bike without the little wheels, to help you keep your balance in the beginning. Yeah, of course you can learn to ride your bike like that. It's just going to take you a lot longer. You're probably going to fall a lot more, and I sure was happy that I had those little wheels and was able to figure it out that way, and I think that made the process more smooth. So in a way, the towers are that I see for humanity and for the earth to give us that help, right?
Fantastic, thanks. Yeah, since the beginning of this company, when we started shifting from water filters into the energy of water, we've always believed that the tools that we offer to the world are the best available today, and they're still training wheels. Ultimately, the whole goal is the empowerment of the species, such that we radically transform the way we know ourselves and our relationship to life and the way we express ourselves. So I think a lot of what we're capable of is still unimaginable to us, and that we're profoundly limited by our capacity to imagine and stretch into the unformed unknown. It's hard not to create from what we already know. So I know there are people on this call who are constantly stretching themselves and pushing the edge of that. And thank you for the hard work that is. And I think we still will take quantum leaps from here.
Mm-hmm. That's also the good news, right? I mean, look at mainstream science and the technologies we've created. They're in such a small percentage of the totality, and we've created a lot of havoc with them. But the good news is there's the 98% still there, the entire subtle spectrum that is so much more powerful. And when we start tuning into that, just imagine, like, you see everything that's happened with the man-made technologies and how bad a predicament it got us in a few decades time. Well, can you imagine if we all start tuning into the 98% and the subtle spectrum, which is even more powerful? What a difference we can make for the better. So I think the future's bright.
Definitely. All right, Nico, from the chat, what is the best way to describe the cosmic tower compared to God or unity with God?
Gosh, we've talked about that with people that say like, oh, I don't want my cosmic tower to take the place of God, and I feel, you know, uh, at odds with that. It doesn't replace that. For me, it's like you have your own source connection that you can tap into directly, and there ultimately shouldn't be like a middleman there, right? It's always between you and source or God or whatever you want to call it. But what I would say is that they create an environment that make it easy for you to access what has always already been there. Just like you go to a temple, you don't go to pray to the statue, or you don't, you know, ultimately you shouldn't. You go in that place because it has a certain resonance, because it creates a certain environment that makes it easier for you to access what is already there. So Cosmic Tower is no replacement of that. It's between you and Source, or what you want to call it. They're just here to help us to make that connection easier for you.
Beautiful. All right, anybody else? Questions or something about your experience with your tower that you want to share? Okay, Nico, will we be getting the Cosmic Tower 6 this week on Friday, or are we going to do the replay of this Q&A and then
The replay of this Q&A.
All right, Nico gets a week off for good behavior. He's been working
Also
hard.
gotta get my laptop fixed.
So we'll be putting this replay out Friday at 5 o'clock Eastern time, and then next week, hopefully, we'll Nico's intending to do one a week as much as possible, and you know it takes a lot of energy. He disappears into the cave sometimes for a couple of days, and then one of those comes out just in time to get published for you all. So it's a real act of creation. So all right, great. Well, we'll look forward to the next one, hopefully next week, and we'll yeah, give thanks for this Q&A today. Thank you guys for being here and being part of this community. It's lovely to spend time with you. And yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the call. Anybody that wants to say goodbye, I just put you all to unmute. Our next Q&A will be at Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month in November. Bye, Susan.
All
right. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
right.
Bye.